kind of wishing I could sneak an M&M right now. I suppose that hearing me crunching sweet chocolate with crunchy candy outside probably wouldn't sound so great over the microphone, so I will sacrifice my own gratification. I know, that's the kind of man I am. All right. Remember last week, Jesus had gone through his wilderness experience. So look what happens after he has clarity about who he is and what he's supposed to be doing. Look what happens next. From Luke chapter 13, verses 31 through 35. At that time, some Pharisees came to Jesus and said to him, "Leave this place and go somewhere else. Herod wants to kill you." He replied, "Go tell that fox, I will keep on driving out demons and healing people today and tomorrow and on the third day, and I will reach my goal. In any case, I must press on today and tomorrow and the next day, for surely no prophet can die outside of Jerusalem. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who kill the prophets and stone those sent to you. How often I would have longed to gather your children together, as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, and you were not willing. Look, your house is left to you desolate. I tell you, you will not see me again until you say, 'Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord.'" All right, so the story starts out with the Pharisees warning Jesus about Herod. Now, I thought the Pharisees didn't like Jesus. Well, most of them did. Some of them did. There was one named Nicodemus, you remember his story. He came to Jesus by night. Jesus was trying to teach him about the Holy Spirit, and he couldn't conceive it. And Jesus says, Nicodemus, if you can't comprehend these little things, how can you learn the greater things? And we don't see or hear from Nicodemus again until when? The very end, when Jesus' body is being taken from the cross, and he and Joseph of Arimathea ask and request from the religious and the civic leaders to take his body to have him buried properly. All right? So we know that there were some. But, hey, Jesus, you need to get out of here. Herod wants to kill you. It's kind of like, that's interesting. You know what I'm saying? You could say to someone, that's interesting. That usually means it's, what? Not at all interesting. In fact, we would make fun of it, but we're in public, and, well, that would be interesting. All right, so it could be some of them. This seems like very loud to me, Mike. Is it? I'm hearing my echo. Okay. So it could be, Jesus, Herod wants to kill you. You need to leave town to protect yourself. It could be genuine. Or it could be, God, what are we going to do with this guy? He's threatening everything that we're about, our core beliefs, our core system. I mean, he's a huge threat. You might make us obsolete. So what are we going to do with him? Let's tell him that Herod wants to kill him, and maybe he'll get out of town. We don't really know what the intent was behind it, but we do know this. How did Jesus respond to the threat? Now, the threat was indeed justified to be afraid, because anytime the state decides you're an enemy of the state can then do whatever the state wants to do. Am I right? The state has all the drones with the rockets on it, right? The state has the soldiers who can arrest you and torture you and throw you in a dungeon. Usually when the state is wanting to kill you, one should be afraid. Also, Herod has already killed John the Baptist and cut off his head because Herod saw his kind of stepdaughter do a sexy dance and promised her that he would give her anything she asked for. And after she was done with her dance, he said, that was a glory. Ask me anything, and I will give it to you. Her mother whispers in her ear, the what? The head of John the Baptist? All right, I announced in front of everyone. So cut off his head. So Jesus should have been afraid, but he wasn't. How does Jesus respond? You tell that old fox. Yes, Herod is wise. He's cunning. He can't be trusted. You tell that old fox that I am casting out demons, and I am healing people yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and I will continue to do the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. and I will continue to do it till I reach my goal. I will continue to do it until I've fulfilled my purpose. So Jesus was not afraid of Herod. Jesus was not afraid of dying. Why? It's because when Jesus pulled his robe open, there was a giant S on his chest. No. Remember, he had just spent time in the wilderness, becoming extremely clear about who he was and what he was to do. And dying right now at the hand of Herod was not in the plan. Therefore, he trusted that now's not the time. I need to do my work, and I will move on. You remember the story when he was on the cross, and after he'd gone through all the scourging and the humiliation, and as he was suffering, and then he said what? It is what? Finished. And then he gave up his spirit. Jesus left his body on his terms. Right? So he wasn't afraid of dying. I've got to admit to you, I'm not afraid of dying. I'm not. I'm kind of like Woody Allen, though. Woody Allen says, I'm not afraid of death. I just don't want to be there when it happens. but I'm not. I'm not. Maybe it's because I'm seeing the end of my life is much closer than I'm at the beginning, when I was at the beginning, but I'm not afraid of dying. Interestingly, the clergy of Central Florida meet once a month in Orlando, and at our last meeting, Dave remembers this, it was brought up, should ministers wear a gun during worship or have one in the pulpit? Especially for us as UCC, United Church of Christ, because we're a very progressive denomination. We do same-sex marriages, bringing in refugees, There's some crazy out there who might want to shoot us up because of what we believe and what we do. And I was surprised at how many said that they kind of think maybe they should. And they felt somewhat threatened. I want to go level with you. I have no desire to have a gun. Now, that doesn't mean I'm anti-gun. I just have no desire to have one. I don't have a desire to shoot anyone. I have no desire to be trained on how to shoot someone. I just have no desire to do that. And could someone come walking through the door and shoot me up? Do I have any control over that? No, not at all. Because I promise you, if I'm in the middle of making my point, no matter how many bullets hit me, I'm still going to move. If the clapping for all the bullets are going to hit me, gee whiz, I wish he'd have gone and died before he had to finish his point. Now I got to think about it all week. Look, the thought has crossed my mind, but I don't lose sleep at night. And quite frankly, if someone shoots me for being the kind of minister I am, I would rather go out that way than lying in bed for 6 months being eaten by cancer. At least that way I'll probably get my name on something somewhere. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I'm not going to not live my life because I am afraid. And this is what I'm seeing in this passage. Jesus was not afraid. He knew how it was going to end for him from the very beginning. But he did not live in fear. Does it mean at times he did not get scared? I'm sure he did get scared. We know that at Gethsemane, before it was all supposed to go down, that he prayed 3 times. If there's anything else we can do here, I'm listening. I'm open for options. Any options. And he heard silence. And then he said, not my will, but yours. So I'm sure there were times that he was scared because he was human. Now, I have a story to share with you. And it's from a wonderful HBO series called Band of Brothers, which was created from the book. It's 10 episodes. And what's cool about this series is it's an incredible story of a group of men who were in Easy Company. And it's from the boot camp days until the very end of the war, World War II. And what was cool about the series too is that many of the men in Easy Companies that are lead characters in the whole series were still alive. And so there's a documentary where they interview these same men. It's fascinating. And anyway, one of the episodes' focus was completely on fear. And some of these veterans said, you know, everybody was afraid. But we had our training, we had confidence in our training, and we weren't going to allow the fears to keep us from doing what we needed to do. Whereas they focused on one character named Blythe, who was so scared he became paralyzed by his fear. At one point, he even became blinded by his fear. So at part of the episode, the Americans are in their hedgerow over here. There's a field, and the Germans are in their hedgerow over here. So they've dug in. Some are trying to sleep, but Blythe can't sleep. He cannot sleep. And then at some point, Lieutenant Spears comes to him and says, Blythe, why are you awake? I just can't sleep. He said, Blythe, what's wrong? He said, and Blythe confesses to him that, you know, when I jumped, I didn't get back with my company. It wasn't because I was lost. I just fell asleep in a ditch, kind of hoping maybe I wouldn't have to do this. And he hadn't even shot his gun yet. And this is like, 3 or 4 weeks into the campaign. And Spears looked at him and said, Blythe, you know what the problem is? You have hope that you're going to live through this. He said, Blythe, it's just a game. As soon as my boots hit the ground, I knew I was dead. And he walked off. Lieutenant Spears did heroic things in this war. And one of the things that he did was, after the Battle of the Bulge, the American forces, the Allied forces, needed to take a village where the Germans had infantry and artillery. The only way to do it was to storm across an open field, which would make them, open for fire. So the idea was they would send Easy Company down the center, send another company down the side, another company down the side, so they'd have a frontal force and then 2 to flank, right? Captain Winters, or as he may have been major at this time, was no longer in a place to lead his troops. I love Captain Winters. You know why I left Captain Winters? Laura, Kay, you'll know it. Because it reminds me so much of Bill Sims. Have you seen the series? Watch the series. And he had this incredible gentleness, but he was a ferocious warrior, and he was an incredible leader. So Captain Winters can no longer lead his troops. So there's a Lieutenant Dyke, who was only there in this position because he was a graduate from West Point and he needed some combat experience before being promoted. Lieutenant Dyke was nowhere to be found, ever. He made no attempt to get close to the troops. And so Dyke was the one leading the charge. So Winter gives him the exact details of the plan and what he has to do. Now, when you hit that field, you and your men run until you get to that place over there in the village because you'll be sitting ducks. Don't stop for anything. Get there as fast as you can. Okay. So here's Easy Company going across the field, and the Germans now see them, and they're getting the mortars and everything ready to go. And they start firing, and Dyke gets scared. And he says, stop, everybody down. Now the soldiers, Easy Company, is right in the middle of the field. He hovers down behind one of those huge Monet haystacks. And he becomes paralyzed. Sir, we gotta go, sir, we gotta go. They're yelling from the woods, Dyke, go. And he becomes so scared, he just has everybody stop. Well, eventually, the Germans rain in on him, and Dyke and his radio man get killed. We need to get them out of the field. Spears! Remember, Lieutenant Spears? You gotta get them out of the field. Yes, sir. Boom. There he goes running. He gets the group, and they go to a safe place. Now, the village here, Easy Company here, and another company over here. They need to get a message to this group of guys over here, but the radio guy is no longer with them. Right? What are you going to do? Spears jumps over the wall and runs through the village to the other wall where the other American troops are. He was halfway there before the Germans and anybody realized, what is this guy doing? He ran right past them. Then when they realized he was almost to the destination, and then they started shooting him, but they didn't hit him. He jumps over the wall, he delivers the message. Then guess what he does? He needs to get back with Easy Company. He jumps over the wall, and he runs, and the Germans once again, and everybody said, what is he doing? You see, I tell you this story because sometimes we see Jesus as somehow superhuman. Yes, Jesus did those things. Jesus thought those things, but I'm nowhere close to being Jesus. Jesus was human. He was a human being. His body got sick like our bodies got sick. He was betrayed. He was heartbroken. He went to festivals and he went to feasts and he was at weddings and he celebrated. He had people that he loved so much that when they died he wept. Jesus was a human being. But he did not live in fear. Lieutenant Spears was no more superhuman than you and I. He chose not to live in fear. He was not afraid of dying. And by the way, he and Winters survived the war. And Spears went on to make a career in the military. I make this joke sometimes that over the years of ministry, those people who want to die the most are the ones who live the longest. And while they're living, they're not living. They're breathing, they're consuming oxygen, their lungs are expanding, and the brain is working, their heart is pumping. But all they can think about is dying. Do not be afraid. God created you in God's image. Do not be afraid to live your life. If you don't know what your life is supposed to do and supposed to mean, then you better get busy with it. Some of us may be faster than others. But you do not know when your time is finished. It could be when you're in your 20s, your 30s. It might be when you're in your 60s, your 70s, your 90s. Maybe you will be celebrating your 100th birthday. Who knows? Know who you are, get clarity, and live your life. Don't be so afraid of life that you choose to hide from it. Now, one of the things that gave Jesus confidence about not being afraid of Herod is he says, no prophet can die outside of Jerusalem. Why is that? Well, Jerusalem was the city of God. The temple and the Holy of Holies in the temple was where God dwelled. So, if you are in Jerusalem, you're in the city of God where God lives, therefore, it must be a safe place, right? It makes sense to my mind. But Jesus says, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, killer of the prophets. You throw rocks at the messengers who are sent to you. Oh, I would have gathered you to myself like a hen in the desert, and yet you would not listen. Jesus knew that his mission would have to come to a climax in Jerusalem, city of God, where people who were in power and had all the money thought they had the power and all the money because God was on, what? Their side. God's always throwing a curve. I promise you, once you think you've got God figured out, be ready. Curve. Sucker punch for you. So, Jesus knows that he has to go to and then he says, because you send all of these prophets away, your house is left desolate. I graduated seminary in December of 1984. I was 27 and a half years old. At age 27 and a half, I knew everything. What else could anybody teach me? After all of this learning, right? I knew everything. Did I have people in my life trying to give me messages? Maybe. Sure, but guess what? If you already know everything, you don't need to listen to those people who are trying to intrude in your life. Anybody here have teenagers, young adults in your house? And through your life experience and your wisdom and knowledge, you've survived this far, you try to impose it, or I'm sorry, wrong word, try to convey it. Listen, I see what you're doing, I'm doing it. And your kids look at you like, wagon did you just fall off of? Or maybe Prius or something. I don't know if they have a sense of wagons anymore. How many of you who have experienced that with your children did that with the adults in your lives? Yeah. God sends the messengers so that we can grow and become and fulfill the life that God created us to have. But because we know everything, we often send those messengers away, block them out, throw rocks at their head. That's why I always get a little anxious whenever Jennifer Brewer starts bringing rocks for you guys to take home. George is bringing in bricks. But I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. Your house is left desolate. House is an archetype for one soul. What does that mean? Hold on. What is an archetype? If you lived 5,000 years ago and you had a dream that you were inside of a giant mud hut, or if you had a dream last night that you were inside of your house or someone else's house or whatever, that's the archetype for your soul. An archetype is something that transcends all time and space, race, cultures, religions. It's a symbol, it's a universal symbol. A house is a symbol of your soul. So whenever you're in someone else's house in your dream and you're trying to figure out, I shouldn't be here, I'm trying to find a way out, what is the message? Maybe you don't know your own soul. Or you're in your house and God, I love this house. Why is this the first time? I have dreams where I'm going through my house and I love a meandering house, And God, I've never been in these rooms before. That for me is a very good dream because it's telling me that I'm discovering new places about myself, new things. Your house is left desolate. Whenever you choose to kill the prophets and the messengers, your house, your soul is left desolate. Charles Dickens fans, any of you? Okay, maybe this illustration won't be so great after all. Great Expectations. Miss Havisham was going to get married, and at 20 till 9, she got the news that she was going to be jilted. And she never got over it. She spends her whole life trying to continue to squeeze into this wedding gown that she was wearing. All the clocks in the house were stopped. And the wedding cake is still sitting up, all molded and uneaten all these years. She was so betrayed and jilted, she never was able to recover. She adopts a young woman, Estella. And Stella is beautiful, fair, but Miss Havisham has trained her to have ice-cold water in her veins. Being interviewed, and someone asked him about this. He said, "Are you worried about it?" He says, "No, not at all." I said, "Why aren't you?" He says, "Well, the problem with theocracy is no one can decide who's going to be Theo." It's amazing, isn't it? We want to create a God-ruled government, but who's going to do the ruling for God? I think I should do it. No, I think I should do it. No. You know how that goes. So, I want you to look into your soul right now. To your house. Who is Theo in your house? Who is the God of your soul? Is it God of fear? Is it a God of revenge? A God of anger? God of guilt and shame? Who's the God of your soul? The God of betrayal, heartache? Who's the God of your soul? A God of procrastination? A God of unfulfilled dreams? Who's the God of your house? If the God of your house is fear, or any of the things I just listed, then you're settling. You're settling for something much less than the divine Spirit who created you in its image and who, like a hen, wants to bring you to itself and wants to give you the messages and give you the teachers and give you the lessons to help you to fulfill and live the life God created you to live. That is the divine God that Jesus shows us in these passages. This is the God who knows you before you were even born. This is the God who wants your brain to open up and become conscious of His incredible presence around you all the time. This is a God who wants you to start listening to the messengers God sends you and not pushing them away. If you are settling for any other kind of God that's less than the God of Jesus, then you are not getting what you deserve. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, killer of the prophets, or one who welcomes the messenger. Thus ends the lesson. I'm kind of getting the sense right now that you guys wish that guy would have just come through the door before I said all that. Nah, we won't wish him welcome that. We got too much to do. Let's pray. Gracious God, parent God, mommy, daddy God, one who gives us teachers and mentors, one who is constantly showing us opportunities where we can grow and expand and become more and more enlightened. O God of Jesus, who is open if we are not blind, who is everywhere if we are not deaf, and who empowers us to live if we do not choose to be lame. O God, God of life, God of glory, God of courage, God of super intellect and compassion, give us the courage to let you be the God to rule our house. And even though we may be scared at times because of your incredible presence within us and around us, we will not let being scared compromise us in our life. You know the heart and soul of everyone who's here right now. And I know the words that I have shared will touch different people in different ways, but may we all heed the message. We will not be afraid. We will live, and we will know who we are, and we will know what our purpose is, and we go about fulfilling it. Period. Thank you for loving us so much. Thank you for Jesus, his teachings, and his life. And may we strive each and every day to be like him. In his precious name we pray.